Hi, it's Chad Seay from Seay Real Estate here in Richmond, Virginia. This week I want to talk to you about how to be the buyer whose offer gets accepted when you're competing with other offers, when you're competing with other buyers. And we find ourselves in a market today where in many pockets, many areas around my market of Richmond, Virginia, there's a lot more demand than there is supply. And this is something that's common across the country, more so in some areas than others. But what I want to talk to you about briefly is if you are making an offer to buy a house and you're competing with other offers, what can you do to stand out? What can you do to increase the chances of the seller choosing your offer? First of all, let's just look at the types of financing and recognize that the strongest way for you to approach purchasing a house would be if you had the ability to pay cash for the house. I know that doesn't apply to many of us, but if you had the cash and you could make an offer that's not subject to you getting financing, the seller knows they don't have to wonder whether or not you'll get the loan. They know they don't have to wonder whether or not the bank will ask them to make any repairs to the house. And a cash offer really stands out. It's a strong offer. Doesn't mean you can go decidedly below what the seller's asking just because you're paying cash, because even with these people who are getting financing, in the end, the seller is going to have cash. So the fact that you're paying cash doesn't take you but so far, but it will give you an advantage, all things being equal, over those who are going to obtain financing. If that's not an option and we turn our attention to financing, sellers prefer what we call conventional financing. If they look at a contract and see that you're getting a conventional loan as opposed to government insured financing or financing that provides for very low down payments, especially if your conventional financing is 20% down or more, they'll look at that and they'll make some assumptions about you as a buyer, that you've been able to save up a nice big down payment. The type of loan you're getting isn't one that's normally going to ask them to do a whole lot to the property, and you'll have an advantage over other types of financing. But let's say that you have to go with one of those other types of financing, a minimum down payment. Maybe not that you have to, but you want to go with an FHA loan or a VA loan, or in my state, Virginia, we have a VHDA product. But these are all loan products that are government insured. There's government involvement. There's a very low down payment. Sellers know there's a higher likelihood that the lender may have some requirements regarding the condition of the property, so the seller realizes they might have to do this or that to the property. What can you do if that's you making that offer? Well, make a very strong offer, first of all. Ideally, you don't have to ask the seller to pay any of your closing costs, because that comes right off the bottom line for the seller. If you're short on cash and you have to have them pay your closing cost, oftentimes a good answer is to raise the price. Let's say you need $5,000 paid towards your closing cost. Maybe your offer is $5,000 over the asking price, then asking for the seller to pay the $5,000 towards your closing cost. You're giving the seller what they want, and as long as the house will appraise for that raised amount, that's another important part of it. And it protects you too, to know that you're not grossly overpaying. The lender will send an appraiser out who has to make sure the house is worth what you're paying for it. If not, the bank won't approve the loan. So that's one way that you can make your offer stronger if you have to have those closing costs paid. But if you're competing in that situation with another offer that's just paying full price and not asking for closing costs, a seller will tend to go with that one because they don't have to wonder, hey, will it appraise for $5,000 more? So you just want to have your ducks in a row before you make your offer. You want to have a lender on standby who can issue a letter saying you've been pre-approved for financing, and that'll go a long way with the seller. Now, getting there first is important. You know, you want to be watching and you want to be there that first day it goes on the market if you can. A lot of times sellers will delay a day or two before they answer multiple offers, but a lot of times they're just determined to do it just as quick as they get an offer, and getting there quickly is important. So you and your realtor, you want to be watching the internet, watching the multiple listing service, and be ready when the time comes. In regards to sending a letter in with your offer, we've received many offers over the years where the buyer sends a letter along with it. I will tell you this, sellers do like stories. They like to know who they're dealing with. Something that says, and sometimes as a realtor, we'll say this as we send our offers over to the listing agent, hey, she's a nurse, he works as an electrician, they've been at their jobs for 5 years, they are expecting their first child, they love the neighborhood, and they've looked at a lot of homes, and yours is really perfect for them. And that's about enough. Where people cross the line sometimes is, my goodness, I've seen sappy 2-page letters about how they can see their dog frolicking in the backyard and they want to raise their children there and grow old together there. And oftentimes these letters, these these novels of sorts can do more harm than good, as sellers kind of know what's being done, that there's an attempt being made to manipulate them. So be careful how you write those letters. But I think it's great to let the seller know a little bit about who you are and what you think of the property. That's a little bit. I could go on for a long time about this topic, but it is a very competitive market, and you want a realtor who, it's not their first rodeo. They are ready to get in there and make sure you're the one that the seller chooses. At the end of the day, know this, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. We had a house last week where I had a cash offer and one that was getting financing. Typically the cash offer would have been in first place. Just so happens that my seller knew the agent who was representing the buyer who was getting financing. There was a personal connection there that made the seller go towards the one who was obtaining financing. So there's a lot of variables, and you're not going to get 100% of them, but you do the best you can. There's some things that can really give you an advantage, and that's just a taste of it today. I hope you have a great week. I'm Seay with Seay Real Estate.